Hello and welcome to New World Podcast. What number are we on?
Oh my gosh, you would ask.
Let's say nine and a half.
All right.
3/4.
Something like that. I can get you an official answer in just a second.
Threve. Anyway, not that it all matters. I am Buck Berlin, head honcho of New World Comics. Joined with me this week is George Carle.
How's it going?
Stephanie Cerny could not be with us this week, but she'll be here next week. And joining us is ever present, the voice of God, Brad Reed.
Namaste, Buck.
Yep, from Nerds to Men podcast. If you all want to check it out, it's fantastic. That comes out every week, and he runs this fun podcast for us. So, thank you all for joining, and without further ado, George.
Yes.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me here. It's a great way to spend some of my 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. We're all about making everyone famous. So why don't you tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Well, again, as Buck introduced me, I'm George Carle. Even before I did anything, I was a customer here long before I even moved here 12 years ago.
Yeah?
Yeah. My wife's from around here, and when we travel here, I would just come and shop here. I didn't really have a great shop in New York, believe it or not, where I was. It wasn't convenient, wasn't a fun place to go, and I came here and shopped here, and then when I moved, this was my place to go to, and I guess it was I was here maybe a year or so when it went from just customer to, hey, I'll help out in the back a little bit, and it just kind of went, well, this is going to be a 2-month project?
Yeah.
And it's still a 2-month project.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we were starting the great sorting of comic books because, I buy huge collections from time to time, and it takes us a while to go through them. And you and I have the love of obscure characters and all that, and you get comics kind of the same way that I do, and you offered to help sort comics, which
Yes.
If anyone knows how to sort comics, it's always a plus.
Yes, although I still am not in love with the idea of sorting Spider-Man. That just, or I could always file everything under Luke Cage. That's the old joke about since that's changed.
Yeah, because it's under Here's for Hire, Luke Cage, Power Man, and Power Man and Iron Fist.
Yeah, it's usually a Buck. Which one is this again?
Yeah. That's always a nightmare. But yeah, so you kind of sort of start all the fun things that we do around here just with so let me propose this question to you.
Yeah, and a lot of times it comes under the heading of, I know I shouldn't say this because you're doing so much already, but then there's this idea that has to come out. It's like, okay, try this or that, or a dare, like you can't build Fin Fang Foom out of foam or whatever, something like that. But I guess the Robox was one a long time ago. I hadn't even thought about that in quite some time. I think I wrote up some sort of hacked up some sort of picture of him and said, who or what is Robox? Kind of made like a cover out of it. And he went from whatever. How did he start out? Even?
We were being mean to Zane because Zane was breaking down boxes that he shouldn't have, and he started looking through. One of the boxes upside down, it was like, beep, beep, I am a robot. And then, I forget who all was here, but we all kind of lightly attacked him and then taped him in boxes and shoved him outside. And then he had to walk up and down the strip mall in this box suit that he couldn't really, open his arms to. So he would go from store to store and just kind of look in, and then people would come out, can we help you?
Obviously not.
No. And then we back when there was the DVD store, we taped a little envelope on there, and we had him rent Iron Giant. And we were like, "Oh, that's super clever." And while he was out walking, we offered to let him in, and he was like, "No, I'm having fun."
Okay.
Yeah. We came up with the idea of making an actual robot suit. And then from there, when we made the robot suit, we were like, "Oh, if we made a robot suit, I bet we can make an Iron Man suit."
Yes.
And then that took a year and a half longer than I intended.
Well, you had to get started somewhere.
Yeah. Oh man, looking back on that, Sam and I would get like a curve in cardboard and think, oh my God, we're the masters of this. Look how great we are at making things.
Cardboard, duct tape.
Yeah,
That's how it gets started.
Back when almost all of our costumes were made out of cardboard and duct tape and just, all the things that we shouldn't really be making costumes out of anymore.
Hey. But now, didn't Roblox eventually get cannibalized for something? The original Roblox, or
Yeah, he is now Ultron and a Cyberman.
Oh, good. Oh, that must have been the Cyberman I was wearing that
Yeah.
one Doctor Who day. Okay.
Yeah, we fixed Roblox up with the cooling packs and
Attempted with the fans and
Yeah.
all that. I also remember too. There was at some point a micro box, a smaller one.
Yeah, because Zach was one of the regular kids up here. He was 7, and he was like, "I want to be Roblox." I was like, "I don't think you know what you're getting yourself into, kid."
Oh well, I guess.
Yeah, and he I made him a robot suit, and he loved it, and never wore it again because it was so awful.
Oh well, I guess it wouldn't have taken him long to grow out of it anyway.
Yeah, I mean that was really what most
Yeah.
of it was. But he just didn't realize how warm it was going to be. Even though every step of the way I was like, "You're putting on a layer of cardboard and duct tape."
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot until you actually do it. But that's one of the things that's great about superhero school and doing all that is the some of the check marks you can have if we ever play superhero school bingo.
Yeah.
I've suffered this way. I couldn't breathe for this long
Well,
or whatever.
and that's the one thing that most people don't realize when they start cosplaying is how hot most of the costumes are.
Yeah.
Like even your regular Spider-Man suit is still pretty warm because it's head to toe covering, so you're at least insulated that way.
Well, then there's the other things, like since you reminded me about the Cyberman suit, I remember once while I was standing up there thinking, okay, I can still breathe. This thing was pressing on my chest. It's like, no, I can still breathe. It's good. Don't worry. Keep going. It's fine.
Yeah, there was a time that I was Swamp Thing that I was stuck on the makeshift stilts that I was in, the elongated platform boots that I made out of yoga blocks. And the suit itself was, several layers thick of foam, craft foam and insulation foam and any other kind of foam you could probably think of. And then the helmet with the sharpied red spoons for eyes.
Whoa.
Yeah, so those fogged up first. And then to maintain balance on the yoga blocks, I had to, stand a certain way. And then someone put the arm on the wrong way. So then after 30 minutes or so, I started losing feeling in that arm.
Oh.
And, you're performing, so you can't really say, "Hey, guys, hold on, take my arm off and put it back on again."
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, so I had to stick it out for another hour.
Oh, man.
I was just pouring sweat and it was awful.
But it's fun to be the character, though, and
Yeah.
especially if the kids are liking it and you're just delivering for them, and that does help keep you go on as far as not breaking the illusion that there's this character there.
Right, and I mean, kids were at first terrified of Swamp Thing, and then through the performance and explaining kind of who he was and what he does and his relationship with everyone, there were kids that would come up and be like, "Swamp Thing, I want to be your friend."
Oh.
Yeah, John Constantine isn't a good friend to you.
Yeah.
You need a better friend. And it's, that's the sweetest ever. But yeah, so you've kind of kicked off a lot of stuff. Like, I want to say that you are the one who suggested that Free Comic Book Days go 24-hour sale. Because we were doing a few 24-hour sales here and there. And you said, if Free Comic Book Day is the biggest day of the year for you and you're doing it, bigger and better than any of the other stores, why not make that a 24-hour deal?
You were crazy. Why did you listen to me? No.
Yeah.
It was very easy for me to make such a suggestion because I had no intention of being here for 24 hours. Or I was way beyond the capability. Even in college, when I was finally goaded into trying to do an all-nighter, I gave up at 2:30. So I'm at my peak, there's no way I could do anything that I'd suggest. So.
Yeah.
Amazos, though, that was one kind of idea. We should have an award show, the Amazos.
Yeah, and most people don't actually know about this, but at the end of the year, for all of the people who participate in superhero school that year, we do a little award show for just us because the people that do superhero school are a family. Like they all have worked with each other at their most vulnerable points. Like whether it's zipping people up in really intimate areas, or having to tape things or sew things, hot glue things, and then if someone's just failing out there and in front of the crowd, it's up to someone else to step up and save them, and you just grow close with everyone. So it's kind of this really nice reward for everyone at the end of the year, for me to step out, say thanks, and then everyone gets to kind of give their own little thank you speeches, and we acknowledge the best things that we've done, and then the most mediocre things that we do.
Most mediocre. That's very kind. But
my favorite category and everyone else's least favorite category is worst costume.
Well, it's good though. It helps keep it real.
Well, and the fact that I make most of the costumes, I think that it's fair each time when it's one of my costumes that's worst costume.
Yeah, well, and sometimes it's not even hardly a costume. I remember I was a runner-up at least for Beetle, when all I had was a green Zentai and a helmet.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be an armored character, and it's just that. And I got a lot of sub-enthusiasm that day from the kids over why you green and all that. Yeah, there was not a lot of love.
Yeah.
But that worked into a follow-up one time when you actually made armor for it.
Yes.
And there was this moment, like, what are you going to do in superhero school? It isn't just about standing up there and reciting whatever. If you can get into the character, it's a lot of fun. Like, and for Beetle, I think it was like 2 successive times where the kids were underwhelmed. The first one, which no armor, and the second one, which I don't know, maybe there's a little duct tape or something.
Yeah.
And it was like, I got the old picture of it and just kind of did some photoshopping or whatever and put it up there for the superhero school group and say, I feel a rant coming on. So it's like, I'm just going to get upset with, and that nobody cares. And it's like, Tony Stark's got everything, but I made this in my garage, and all this. And actually it got the kids, like, I got a little sympathy.
Yeah.
A surprise.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to see what the kids are into afterwards. Because after the superhero school, there are a couple kids that'll do all right, I learned about this guy, where are the comics for it? And that's the whole idea behind superhero school, is trying to get kids interested in reading more. And I explain it that the more you know and the more obscure characters you know, the easier it's going to be to get into comics, because you're going to know who your Thor and Captain America and Spider-Man are. But when D-Man shows up,
well, yeah, we're introducing them to the whole concept of a nerd payoff. Like, wow, I know that guy, and that is part of the enjoyment of this, of all this. When you see something show up, especially now with the movies.
Yeah.
If you've got all your nerd creds going into the MCU, and then suddenly something happens, like that character, I saw that character in the '70s. It's something from the '70s. And,
right. Well, and I was just thinking about this because we just finished Justice League over the weekend, and we had Starro for the first time, and I was thinking, man. I'm certain that he's going to make a cameo in the Aquaman movie.
Oh, that would be great. I mean, how much just as far as us, one of the nerd payoff moments that we had with what was that show that was the 30-minute show that didn't last?
Powerless.
Powerless, yeah. When we both saw the first appearance of Starro on TV,
or
whatever, or any screen, I guess.
Man,
I
loved that show so much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it kills me that it didn't last.
Yeah,
I think it was just kind of the wrong time and the wrong, wrong place for the DC universe.
Well,
it felt more like a Marvel show, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there.
We still have that clip though somewhere. Starro climbing a building.
Yeah.
And being a menace.
Well, and I thought that we were the only ones that would ever make a Crimson Fox suit. Yeah, and then Whitney did the first one for us, and then Whitney Cotton just did it for one of the commercials.
Oh, great!
Yeah. Whitney Willis's first one was amazing, and then the second one was very slapdash thrown together, and yeah. But yeah, and then to see it on the show was just oh my God, look, someone really put time and effort into this thing. why would anyone really bother?
But just to go back to something you said before, as far as us being close as a group, it's almost like, of course, the whole idea of a family, yes, and it's in a way it has kind of a feel of what I would assume to be one of those old like acting troupes or something like that, because we're all always doing all these sort of things together.
Yeah, because superhero school is kind of like an improv play, like it's a loosely scripted improvisational,
loosely scripted on a great day. Yeah. But that's what's part of the fun of it, though, because there was one, I forget, maybe when it was Magneto or something like that, where somebody said, "Oh, you should say X, Y, Z." Now you do plan things out a little bit here and there. I got to say this buzzword or that, but anything, at least for me, anything more than just a few points of got to say this, got to play off this person like this. If you start trying to memorize stuff, then it falls apart. It's
right.
Just, you got to just be the character.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes just selling a line to someone will set off all of this other interaction. Like with this last weekend, we had Jared playing the helmet of Dr. Fate, who's constantly trying to get the kids to put on the helmet because it's going to give them infinite cosmic powers, but he's just going to take them over. And they're like, no, don't do it. So then, Guy Gardner comes out with Starro on his face, and the helmet of fate says, "Oh, I wouldn't even put that on my face."
Nice.
Yeah, and then from there, they built off so much other stuff back and forth from that.
And but that brings up another interesting part about superhero school, and the when things don't work out, they wind up working out better than ever. Because how did the helmet of fate get started? The person one day, someone was supposed to show up as Fate.
Yeah.
Couldn't make it. So what do we do? And it's like, well, get the helmet on a pole and just kind of floating around a little bit. And that became the best Fate we ever had, and it's just been a staple ever since.
Oh, man, that reminds me of when we did Cosmo on Guardians of the Galaxy Day.
Oh.
Yeah, because we tried Bluetooth speakers, and then everyone was on their phone, like
interfering with it.
Yeah, and that interfered. And then we tried walkie-talkies, and then those just really, cut out weird. So then we realized that we could FaceTime. Like, we just set someone's camera back where Josh was voicing Cosmo. And, we had one of the characters discreetly with their phone hidden and connected. So anywhere that Cosmo the dog was looking and talking to the kids through his, telepathic abilities, he was able to describe. And the kids, knew that it was a guy behind the partition talking. But, when he was, starting to call out, like, "Hey, little girl in the pink shirt, do you want to pet me?" And all the kids were looking around like, "What? Oh, my God. How is this happening?"
That's also a nice side thing about superhero school is because you have the kids of all ages. there's the ones that are so young that are just totally absorbed in it, and they don't know the difference between, like, the game they played at home, like, what was one really a 3-year-old or something said, like, Lex Luthor or somebody. Like, I remember me, I'm from the game the other day, we were playing the game the other day, versus the kids who get older, like, that when they go from that suspension of disbelief to I'm playing along, it's just neat to see that.
Kira just told me a story yesterday. The first time that she was ever Zatanna, there was a little girl that walked up to her and was like, "Oh my God, you're Zatanna. Have you found your father, Zatara?" And was telling her all these things that she didn't really know, because she was just starting out into all that. And the mom was just like, "I'm really sorry. Just thank you for putting up with my child spouting out." And Kira's like, "Oh no, this is great." And then the mom says, "All right, Kira, let's go." And she's, "Oh my God, hold on. Sorry to break character, but my real name's Kira." And then and then every year since then, Free Comic Book Day and Batman Day, Kira will come find Kira.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
They'll see how they're doing. Yeah.
I had kind of a similar, but at the same time completely opposite thing as far as breaking character goes.
Yeah.
And that is, it was one of the times I was Blue Beetle. Mm-hmm. Okay. And this kid comes up, and it's like, "Do you have a nephew named Isaac?" And I'm thinking all my notes is like, I don't remember reading anything. And how does this kid know this detail about Ted Cord? But no, it was a friend of my actual nephew Isaac, and he recognized me, and I was like so stuck as Ted Core. I was like, what do I do? And then his dad showed up. I remembered him, and he was like, okay. And
that's
yeah,
funny.
Yeah, that was great. So, but it'll snap a few synapses trying to jump in and out of these things if you're not careful.
Yeah, yeah. The few times that I've done this, it's always kind of afterwards. After the superhero school, we do the part where everyone gets to come up, take pictures, and meet the characters. And I'll be asked questions, and it's are you asking me or the character? Like, which one is it? How far do I go into this? And then man, yeah. Sometimes we'll get some interesting questions that we have to refer back to the parents on.
Yeah, but we do. I think we all, as much as possible, try to stay in character even afterwards, and then like quietly when it's time to change, quietly sneak off, so not to blow the suspension of disbelief or actually you wouldn't even call it that. The whole whatever's going on, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, yeah. But we weren't when we first started out, but yeah, that's something we've got way better at. So. But yeah, next I want to talk about our love of kaiju.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's one of the things that you and I first kind of bonded over. That and our love of the obscure characters. But we'll get to that next. But yeah, so Godzilla is absolutely positively one of my favorite things in the world. I have him on the front of the store even. I commissioned Jerry to do a big mural of So, I guess the standard first question is, what's your favorite Godzilla movie?
Well, that depends on the answer, but it does. This does set up, or this does rather depends on the answer. Depends on how do you mean favorite, because there's a bunch of different things that could be your favorite. The first of which kind of illustrates the difference. Even though we have a common love for Godzilla, you're more of a 90s Godzilla guy.
Yeah, I feel that it was kind of a refined time. Like the Godzilla versus Mothra, or Mothra, however they wanted to title it at the time. But the 1964 Godzilla versus Mothra is my favorite. But like the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s.
The Heisei series.
Yeah, the Heisei series. For those that are like nerd raging, that I'm not calling it the Heisei series. Yeah. That to me, that's kind of the ultimate version of Godzilla. They had rationalized Ghidorah with the Ghidorahs as awful as they were. Yeah. It's still kind of fun, and the terrible idea of Godzillasaurus.
Well, he's got to come from somewhere.
Right.
Random dinosaur out on a Pacific island.
Yeah, but the way that they cobbled everything together and made it all one story was really pretty neat.
It was fun, especially with the payoff at the end of the battle with Mecha Ghidorah, which was one of the best kaiju battle scenes ever.
Yeah.
On the screen. But just to get back to answering your question. The first Godzilla movie I remember seeing as a kid was King Kong versus Godzilla, and that established Godzilla. Me as a Godzilla fan. I still don't know to this day. Did it make me a Godzilla fan, or just reveal I like these sort of things? But I've got, I don't know, in my collections I have about 4 or 5. There's Godzilla and King Kong together. Just standing off on this part of the desk or that shelf or whatever.
Gotcha. So, fun, embarrassing story about Ben since he's not here.
Oh, okay. You would say it even if he was here. So
yeah, in fact, I say it in front of him all the time. I started Ben off on Godzilla when he was not even 1. I went over to just kind of mess with the new nephew, and he was playing with blocks, and I got him this little plush Godzilla that's about the size of these Godzilla toys that are here on the table. And I guess for those that aren't watching the video, it's about a 6-inch tall Godzilla standing up, and I showed him that Godzilla could go and knock down all the other blocks, and that his other toys couldn't.
Oh.
And he fell in love and thought it was the greatest thing ever, Godzilla. So I would get him Godzilla books and toys and things like that, and I got him this one book that had the history of Godzilla action figures, and there was a picture of King Kong, from King Kong versus Godzilla, And if you remember, King Kong didn't have any hair on his face or his hands or his 2 pectoral muscles. So Ben, at the tender age of 3, says, Buck, why does King Kong have nanas? Yeah, I was like, you're going to have to ask your mom about that. I'm not old enough. So
Sorry to interrupt, but we can't mention Ben without plugging his podcast. Teens and Flannels, coming soon.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, voice of God.
But, our love of Godzilla, though, also there's a contrast, though.
Yeah, which I appreciate that it's not just we love the same thing,
Right, but the contrast also kind of expresses itself into comic books because in spite of the fact that King Kong versus Godzilla is one of my favorites, because of the childhood experience with it, it is arguably a silly movie. Can't wait for the remake.
Oh
it's
my
like
God, yeah.
But you like some more of the fun stuff, where I'm like more of the serious stuff, and it's interesting that you're talking 90s serious Godzilla's your Godzilla, even though I like the fun stuff, and it seems like a contrast here, but that your love of the fun extends to the point of Jet Jaguar, which is like, no.
Give me some Jet Jaguar and King Caesar.
But that appreciation for fun stuff has kind of helped bleed over into my changing from the comics, like, read this.
Like,
I was like,
the
okay.
fact that you'll accept Howard the Duck now.
Yeah, well, it helps that he does hang out with Man Thing. He's part of he's kind of attached to the Marvel Monsters world. But I get so much grief at home because I'm very proud to say that my wife who was not a comic book fan at first, has become a comic book fan because she's read so much of my collection. When we first got married, I said, "Here, try to read comics," and she never really got into it. But then when Watchmen came out, I said, okay, this movie's coming out. And I got what was it?
The trade paper.
Yeah, the trade. Yeah. I said, okay, we're going to read these before seeing the movie, etc. And that is what helped her continue to go into comics. She's read more of my collection than I have. But it was great to see her develop her own areas of nerd rage.
Yeah.
Howard the Duck being one of the supreme areas of nerd rage for her. So that, Submariner, absolutely can't stand him.
Yeah.
Can't stand Lobo. That's
fair.
Yeah, but then if you think Amalgam Comics, though, the ultimate Amalgam comic was Lobo the Duck.
Lobo the Duck, yeah.
Yeah, but I get grief if I ever get any Howard the Duck stuff and bring it. What'd you get today? And I always get grief. I always get grief for that. But I'm proud of it, though.
Well, it's not entirely undeserved. I mean, look at his movie.
Well, that's where I think that's the seed of the nerd rage comes from that movie.
Which is funny. As a kid, I watched it so many times, and then it's one of those that you came back to as an adult, and it's just terrible, just awful. But yeah, like in the love of Godzilla stuff, like Dancing Godzilla is
which this was before this got set up. This was in the Dancing Godzilla pose from Monster Zero.
Yeah, it's because he was in my office doing that. Yeah,
but you left it out. You could have straightened it up first. No.
When it comes to the comics, there are so many times that they just want to go serious. They want to go darker and grittier, and to me, that's the easy out. To me, as much as I love Batman, Batman is always kind of the easy out to let's make him darker and harsher and all this other stuff. Whereas Superman's kind of the harder character to write because what's bad in life, death, loss, and all that stuff. But what's happy? What's how do you define joy, which is different than how person B will define joy and so on and so forth. So, for them to, have fun comic characters and fun concepts, that kind of stuff, I always appreciate them fostering that just because it kind of helps build the overall world so it's not just this dark, grim, and gritty place.
Well, and I guess this could maybe be an expression too, since we're from, I guess, different generations or half generations at least.
Yeah.
I grew up with the, like some of the collections of Superman and Batman, which were so much from the really watered down comic code. Hey, chum, and all
Yeah.
that. And it's like when you see so much of that, as much as maybe Batman 66 is fun to look back on now that you are old enough to know it's a spoof and everything, as opposed to a kid taking it in.
Well,
but when it's just when it's so silly and everyone it gets disrespect, and you want it to be serious. And maybe
Yeah.
that's where some of that comes in for me.
See, it's funny you mentioned that because as a kid, when I went to go see the '89 Batman, I saw it, I loved it. My aunt took me to KB Toys and bought me a 3-pack of Batman comics, which they just recently
Blossomed.
Yeah, they just recently collected them, or I guess collected them for the first time. But I now have a trade paperback of my first comics, which is crazy. But we went home, and on TV they were replaying the old '66 Batman. And for me as a kid, it was the same thing. It was hey, there's Batman. It's not quite as flashy as the movie. It's probably just Batman earlier.
Okay.
That's how I rationalized it as a kid. Was these are just the earlier adventures of Batman. And what I saw today at the theater was Batman Now. Because man, look at Batman Now.
Yeah, he's gotten a little edgier.
Yeah.
a tad.
Right.
250 caliber machine guns in the car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I loved that at the time, but now I would have some nerd rage over that's too much of a departure from Batman.
Oh yeah. Well, like in the Batman versus Superman with Batman just killing people, just full on
Oh.
Hey guys, what's Batman's number one rule?
Yeah.
Oh, that's out the window.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could argue that Batman's been killing people for years.
You could.
Or
just not saving them. Yeah.
There's the whole not saving them argument, or there's like the time that he full on threw a car battery into some dude's chest.
Yeah.
And knocked him into a big stack of piled cars, and then those all fell down on him.
Well, but he's so skilled at that he knew that it's not gonna work. Yeah.
Now Batman killed some folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Gravity did.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not going to go down that road.
Yeah.
One of our biggest conversation starters ever are the obscure characters that we go after, and kind of the culmination of them were in 2 titles, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Agents of Atlas. And you and I were the biggest cheerleaders of the Guardians of the Galaxy series when it came out, and then when Marvel announced that movie, it was like, who asked us?
Yes, that was. Yeah, it was like, is this place bugged? What's
Yeah.
going on? Or okay, we'll still keep feeding you information if you keep sending us these movies.
Yeah, and along the way they would say and mention all these things that they were including, and it was it's like they're asking me.
Well, and Guardians, or at least for me, well, probably for you too, but Guardians was a twofold kind of thing like that, in that when they got the comic book going, 3 of the characters in it were super obscure characters that were chase characters of mine then. So they got their own title, and then the title became the movie.
Yeah.
So it was like double nerd reinforcement or whatever. But
Yeah.
Star-Lord, I don't know why I was chasing down that character. I guess it was some of the influence of the Marvel magazines as a kid when I see all the black and white stuff that just kind of, imprinted on me. So it's like, all right, this guy's Star-Lord. What is this going on? Get all those magazines. Rocket Raccoon, because I think it was that mini series at first, and then the one that was preceded by the Hulk crossover.
Yeah.
And of course Groot, because being a Marvel monster.
Yes.
I saw him first in Where Monsters Dwell, but that was just a reprint of something else. But having all those guys together, but they also define. I think the obscure characters, aside from just being fun, for me they kind of help define the limits of the Marvel universe.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a great way to put that, just because it really does kind of put this is as far as we're willing to go right now. Like around annual time or Christmas special time, they'll break out some really crazy stuff. But for the most part, that was them kind of drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is as far as we're willing to go. Here's your talking tree and talking raccoon and everything in between.
And it is, and it wasn't, and it was interesting to talk to a friend at work years ago when the Marvel Cinematic Universe was getting started. It isn't just something that we wrestle with in our comic culture as to what fits together. I had a coworker; he could not accept the idea of an Iron Man and a Thor in a coexistent universe because you've got science fiction armor and you've got, high, adventure mythology or whatever kind of stuff you want to put that in. For us, we're all ready for that. Yeah,
well, and Marvel did it really smart when they grounded Iron Man in such harsh reality. Like go back and look at the first Iron Man movie, and they were trying to push. Look how real all of this is.
Yeah.
This is as far as we're going on. This. This is too fantastical, so they're going to pull away from that, and they stayed with that. And then look at the first Thor movie, and they take away most of his his abilities first thing, and they really downplay what all he can do and all that. And then Avengers, they were like, oh please God, let's make sure that everything's in line. Let's play with the fantastic stuff now. Okay, look at one.
Yeah, it's like pizza and ice cream really do go together, or something kind of thing.
Yeah, it's one of those like hey look at all of our toys playing well together, because they were so careful to set up everything that now they can kind of throw anything and everything together and it works.
Well, in a way, it was kind of come full circle, bringing up Howard the Duck again. It was almost having him show up at the end of and the Guardians was kind of like a victory lap.
That was them rubbing DC's nose in it, just because they made sure to put Howard back in the movie before Wonder Woman came out.
Yeah, and that
they were like, oh, you're afraid to put a woman on, a woman in the lead role, and here we put a talking raccoon.
Yeah, and we'll throw in a reference back to our duck.
Right.
Yeah, which to go back to an earlier point, I got in so much trouble for not warning somebody about that, but I didn't want to do a spoiler.
Yeah.
So
I'd say that that beats out any kind of needed warning. But I want to touch upon Agents of Atlas.
Yes.
Real quick, which it's a shame that it's not in print right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It is absolutely one of the best stories that Marvel's put out, and it plays so well in their past without really needing to reference or go back and look into, because a lot of it was taken off of a What If issue.
Number 9.
Yeah. What if the Avengers had existed in the 1950s, and they didn't want to use 3D Man at the time, so they were like, who else can we use in the issue? Oh, look, Agent Jimmy Woo's in there.
And it wasn't because although that was the inspiration for it, the concept of Agents of Atlas was, let's use characters from when Marvel was called Atlas Comics.
Right.
And so then they put them together.
Yeah. And it was done. I read the letter to fans that Jeff Parker was doing in the hardcover, and he said that it was kind of an I dare you situation from one of the editors. It was I bet you can't do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so not unlike you with superhero school and the 24-hour sales and all the other fun things that we do around here.
You can't build a haunted tank out of foam.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to build a haunted tank for several reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reason 1, where are we going to store it? Reason 2, we're not getting into.
Yeah, exactly. But that is usually my go-to because of it would be such a massive project.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is one of the other things I do is I say that the project that I know part of you can't resist to try, you can't do the Legion, with the amount of people we have or whatever.
Yeah, much to my wife's chagrin, you kind of start the ball rolling on a lot of this stuff.
I'll go apologize to Kira on the side.
Yeah.
Don't get mad at the idea. Get happy.
Well, but I mean, a lot of the time, it will come out working so much better than we anticipated. And then, when you joked so many times about, hey, let's do a Godzilla superhero school, and now we're gearing up for one for next year.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah. So, and now that it's, here recorded, for all of history, We have to put up or shut up.
This is it.
Yeah.
Well, I just get to come up with the ideas and maybe just stand inside of something and sweat. I could use my lack of talent of putting things together as just an idea person and just you bear the brunt of it.
Yeah.
Can I call Matthew Broderick for superhero school? Godzilla?
Yes.
We
would
turn
love-
that back
yeah.
down again and keep it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Call him. Yeah. Let's bring him back into this. It'll be fun to crush him.
Okay.
That's who I'm gonna play. That's
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to play it like Ferris Bueller in a Godzilla movie, and then
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay. All right. You can give the dialogue. That's good. That's just such a dangerous place to go, though. With the Matthew Broderick Godzilla movie.
well, no more dangerous than him. Oh, look up his Wikipedia and the horrible things he did. Me and my celebrity tangents.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, God, what were we talking about?
Agents of Atlas.
Agents of
and its
Atlas.
awesomeness.
Yes. So those interested, track down however you can and read this book. It is so good. Yeah. It's a shield agent, an Atlantean, gorilla man,
Yeah.
which he's just a gorilla man. Like he's gorilla man,
Robot.
a robot, an alien,
Alien.
and what do you classify Venus? Just a
goddess.
goddess?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's even there was a poster that they or an ad, and they just use like a one word. Spy, robot, gorilla, mermaid, goddess, and who do I leave? Oh, spaceman.
The spaceman. Yeah.
And I know as one of the most basic nerd things, like even when we were kids, like my superhero could be your superhero, that kind of stuff. If that still has a chord in you somewhere as the inner kid, this team arguably could kick a lot of butt.
Yeah.
I mean the way and as weird as this team is.
Yeah, and if things are going the right way, we might see them in the cinematic universe, because in Ant-Man we got Jimmy Woo.
Yeah, and
who absolutely is nothing like the comic book counterpart of Jimmy Woo.
hopefully he's covering or
Well,
something else.
well, but I mean, look at how Star-Lord came out in the movies compared to comics.
Yeah.
He's absolutely a different character. Look at how Drax came out in the movies compared to the comics.
Much better.
And there are a lot of these characters that are just kind of the archetype. We need this kind of character. We need this kind of character. And I kind of like how the movies have kind of changed some of the archetype characters into their own. Yeah. So like the Uranian, he has a few weird things to him, but to see a different personality thrown on him, would be kind of cool.
Well, even in the comic though, they totally changed. It would probably be less of a change from Agents of Atlas to a movie if they ever made it versus
From
his original form.
To that. Yeah, because he was super happy-go-lucky originally, and then
Now he's
yeah.
What? Yeah, no spoilers, but
what is that?
Well, no, don't do that. Yeah. Ooh. But the Jimmy Woo is the second reference though to Agent. If you're still counting the Netflix series as part of the MCU, that's if you remember. And I guess spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the first Daredevil series.
Yeah.
Okay. At the very end. All right. Stop listening now. At the very end, across the hall, wasn't like the Atlas Agency or something like that.
Oh,
on the
yeah.
window. Yeah. So
Yes.
it was like that was a great nerd payoff moment.
Oh, that was his office before. That was what was on his office's window before they took over.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, get that book.
Yeah.
Or however you have to.
Yeah. We're not a big proponent for finding stuff elsewhere, but I mean, man, it's so good.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to. Well, I think that'll pretty much do it for this time on the New World podcast. Unless there's anything else you want to throw in, George.
No, we'll if I got started again, we'll be here for another.
Fair enough. Well, thank you all for joining us. I've been Buck Berlin. This has been George Carle and Brad Reed.
Make sure you tell everybody where the shop is.
Oh yeah, the shop is in Oklahoma City at 6219 North Meridian.
Yep, just south of 63rd off the Meridian.
That's right.
Yeah.
Be sure to listen to Nerds to Men weekly, featuring Brad Reed, myself, and Cameo.
Sometimes.
sometimes.
Something ironic in there somewhere.
Yeah,
There's a cameo.
Yeah.
living up to his name. Cameo. All right, that'll wrap us up. Thanks for listening.